As a world history teacher, I'm always, listening to the news to try and see what I can tie into my content. And obviously the tension between Russia and Ukraine was building and building. And I was casually asking students if they had questions, but the Monday before the invasion of Ukraine, students really started to come in with things they were seeing on social media and conspiracy theories and the normal things that occur when a big event is happening, and whether it's in the state or within our nation or worldwide. I knew that it was time to address it because I also was hearing a lot of fears and concerns about what this would mean for the United States and what this would mean specifically for my students. It's so interesting. The biggest question they kept asking, even prior to the invasion, was, is there going to be a draft? And I have never had a group of students ask that question before. And so I was like, we got to pause. We got to make time for this. Not just to help them with the fear that they were feeling, but to give them a lot more context when dealing with what they were seeing online. We teach media literacy all the time in our class, but when a real world event is happening, sometimes they forget that they have that toolbox. This particular event has allowed for me to give real examples in real time of how easy it is for people to take footage or videos or pictures from other events and kind of repackage them in order to get likes or follows. And so that's been one that's been really easy for me to show to my students. Also, just a lot of understanding that when it's breaking news organizations will still get it wrong. And that doesn't mean we shouldn't trust them. It just means we really need to pay attention to the language that news organizations are using. And so we've looked at it from the social media standpoint and people trying to get those likes and follows by repackaging information. We've looked at it from how Russia's doing targeted misinformation campaigns or disinformation campaigns. And then also just an awareness that even the most trustworthy news sources in a moment like this, you have to be cautious of what they're reporting because they don't always have the bigger picture just yet. So the students seem to be really engaged with those empathetic stories, like those pulling on the heartstrings stories, which some of them have been true and we've been able to verify when the students have brought those in, or the really graphic battle ones. Which they were so disappointed when I told them that the fighter jet story was a video game. They were so disappointed that video was a video game that had been turned into a TikTok video. They really thought it was real. And so I think it's good in the broader sense of they now are going to be more skeptical about everything else that they see. It's unfortunate that it takes this sort of world event for them to really see how often they're being fooled online. One thing I keep reminding myself of is I'm not an expert on Russia and Ukraine. I take pride in being a really well-trained history teacher. I think I'm fairly good at what I do, but of course I have imposter syndrome sometimes. But when it comes to Ukraine and Russia, I am not an expert. I'm not an expert on this conflict, and that's okay. And I have to remind my students of that as well, that it's okay that we're not experts. We're just gonna learn what we can to better understand what's going on and trust those who are experts. And so I think my students are gaining a lot from seeing me do the I don't know moments of oh, I'm not sure about that, but let's look into it, which is something I naturally do in my class anyways, but in this particular moment, it's happening a lot more. So I teach 10th grade. I was a 10th grader when 9/11 happened. And obviously what's happening right now is not the same as that day, but it's the weeks after there was always chatter of my parents say this is gonna happen. I heard this is gonna happen. And that put me in a state of fear when I was a young person. And for them, it's times a million. It's an unthinkable amount of information being thrown at them. I think that's another thing I've been really aware of when designing the lessons that I'm creating is I want them to be informed. I want them to know what's going on. I want them to have the tools they need to navigate what they're seeing online. But they also are already carrying so much with them. It's the stress of the pandemic on students is not something that can be taken lightly, and the social emotional toll it's had on them, I see it every single day in the classroom. And so to add this world event that is for many of them very scary. It breaks, it breaks my heart for what's happening for the people of Ukraine. And it's also so hard to see our children have to go through another major world event. Like it's really hard to ensure that we're navigating that in a way that also gives them space to still be kids.